Okay, unfortunately now I have to tell you the date and the time because I don't have that right. That was with Manicam that I was using that I set that up. So that can be set up because a whole bunch of stuff can be set up with OBS Studio. So that can be set up. I don't know exactly how, but it can be set. It can be set up. Uh, I'm happy with the video, and I'm actually thinking now about this being it instead of having me full screen and then I switch to something else. Whatever. I'm thinking of maybe just because you don't need to see me full screen, and we don't need any zooming or anything. Um, so the audio seems to be a little bit of the problem, and I'm using Elgato Wave 3, but there are a whole bunch of selections, and there's a whole bunch of, and I know very little about audio really. I know very little about everything. Um, I'm wondering now if the right here where, well, right here is the $200 Dell computer. Uh, so you can see that it's really, well, you can't see it. Well, I mean, you can't, it's at the end of my hand here. I mean, I can move this over, but and I guess that's the wrong place for it, of course. But everything is hooked up, and every time I move something, I risk. I could put that on the floor. My cables, I think, are long enough. Um, there's actually a thing that it's sitting on, which there's room, but not on the first shelf space. I think there's room below, but I don't know. Anyway, I drug this out again, which I've mentioned quite a few times to you, and I've got the microphone now, the Wave 3 microphone right here. Um, maybe it really would do if this computer is the problem, and I can't really tell. I could move the microphone, of course, and it works much better. It works much better when it's closer to me than. And I could put it right in the middle between the two monitors. The only problem with that, and I've switched keyboards again. Oh, I've switched keyboards. I've got, I don't know how many keyboards. I got quite a few, like monitors and other stuff. Years ago I sold, but not very often. I just sold a few items on eBay, and they sold immediately because I always made them cheap. Ordered buy now and made them cheap, and I got fantastic. All my reviews were fantastic. How quickly it was shipped, how well it was shipped, and packaged and everything. So, but I haven't done any because I don't want to. I'm lazy. Okay, and I forget. This keyboard is. I forget which keyboard this is. See if I can keep from breaking something here. It's the Spectre Pro. I think it's saying backlit. Mechanical keyboard. Whoops. Are we still running? I think so. I can tell by the timer, okay. 30 frames a second, and I could easily do 60 frames a second, I think, but there's no reason to. And we're only using 2% of the CPU. I Now I forget which keyboard I was, well, more than one. I've tried different ones. I've had the microphone right in the middle. Okay, now I got it hooked around something. Maybe I could push this table back just a little bit by hand and get the cable up here. Okay, there, we did it. Okay. Now I more than once, right now this microphone is right in the front of me. And whatever keyboard I was using then, let me go up here and do something. Type. I'll be able to tell when I listen to and you can also tell, you know, I hit CNN. Air Force suspends bonuses due to funding shortfall. What's going on? The service will also pause personal moves. Oh, wow. I mean, that could hurt a lot of service. I mean, people. I mean, you know, personal moves. I'm guessing is, you know, a military person who lives on a base, or I guess you can. They'll also pay you if you personally, you know, if you're living off base someplace, and then. But I mean, it could be, you know, family problems that you wanted a personal move. Anyway, the changes could affect tens of thousands of service members. Republicans block leaves major branch of U.S. military service without a confirmed leader for the first time in over a century. Republican bloc leaves major branch of U.S. military without a confirmed leader for the first time. Oh, that's because there's one Republican House member who has been holding up all promotions for, I think, of officers, and that's causing, just causing major just for whatever he wants, which is, I forget what he wants, just to get the attention or something or other. The Republicans control the House. So the leader should talk to him and say, don't do this. And then if the, Republican member of his party, if the Republican says, no, I want to do this because it's my one chance to make my name known or something like that. If I were the Speaker of the House, of course, the Speaker of the House, it took, 85 votes, which is unbelievable, for him to be picked as the leader. And he had to make some deals with some of his people. I don't know what's all going on with the Republicans, except I hope everybody just votes Republicans out for 4 or 8 years, and let them, just say, I've been a Republican my entire, not me. Just tell these people, okay, we're just voting you. We're tired of, we're voting you out. We're not voting for, I'm voting Democratic for 4 years, or just give people like a choice. Well, they have a choice, of course. It's their decision. I'm just not voting for any Republican for 4 years, and other people can be really pissed or something and say, I'm not voting for, any Republican for 8 years. And then, of course, the Democrats would know. You wouldn't have to tell them. You wouldn't have to tell anybody, oh, shit, this is not good, because, but of course the people should tell the Democrats, yeah, okay, you got it made for 4 years or 8 years, you're going to win, but, okay, in that time, after after the Republican Party has had to reorganize itself and do everything and think about everything that they have done and make plans for what they, and then just tell the Democrats, okay, in let's say 4 years, okay, in 4 years the Republicans will be ready to come in, and in 4 years any of you guys, any of you Democrats, you've had it easy, hey, like the ones that run every 2 years for the House or whatever. You had it easy, didn't you? Okay, fuck you. We taught the Republicans a lesson, haven't we? Now it's up both houses. I mean, both, the Senate and the House. Do something like that. But anyway, back to saying this, the Republican Speaker of the House should tell this Republican who's causing this trouble with the military, don't do this. Start approving. Not. Oh, I guess a veto keeps it, because I don't know. Is it a committee that it happens? I'm not sure, but the Speaker of the House should just tell him, okay, tomorrow, fix this. Start immediately taking care of this. Don't be a fucking jackass or whatever. And I don't know how this guy would respond. I think he'd respond like, okay, well, okay, I'm sorry, But if he didn't, I mean, if I was a speaker, I'd say, tomorrow start approving. Then we don't have a commandant of the United States Marine Corps, because I don't know if the guy retired or what the situation is. So, there's an acting commandant. I'm not sure the acting commandant, he'd be able to, send him into combat if he had, for an emergency situation. There's probably a hell of a lot of stuff, though, that somebody who's just an acting, commandant. And there's other things, people who haven't got promotions that should get promotions, and there's all kinds of things, I think, that come up, like when you retire in the military, if you're an officer, I guess, I don't know how it works. The military wouldn't take me. Anyway, the Speaker of the House should just tell this Republican, okay. I mean, if if I were the Speaker of the House, I would just say, okay, this is what you're going to do immediately. And if the guy said, well, I don't think, I said, okay, I'd say, that's fine. You're off that committee. And if the guy says, well, you can't fucking, you're off every committee. And he can do that. The Speaker could do that. Now, of course, the Republicans are in such total insanity land then that the Republicans that put him in, they needed a few votes to get him in, and he made deals with these people who are Republicans, who are the craziest of the craziest, in order to become the Speaker of the House. It took, I think, 80 or 85 votes, and in the past, for the history of the United States, it's taken, usually one vote. I mean, they got together and, okay, so it's whoever has the majority, then they elect the Speaker of the House. But anyway, this, okay, I wonder if that, I have my hearing, I have hearing loss, both ears. I've had it since the first grade. So I don't hear, I don't even hear this thing, and I'm wondering if that's, my son is sleeping right now, but he's going to wake up in a few minutes, and his room is right over there. I have my door closed, but he's going to wake up and put on trance music, or whatever they call it, which I do like, by the way, trance, and what's the other 2 or 3 names for it? Pounding music or whatever. I like it. It makes me get up and I'll do stuff at work before I'd sit here. But if I hear that pulsing, pounding beat or whatever, I don't like any kind of vocal, stuff in it. Anyway, let's see. Republicans block leaves major branch of U.S. military without a confirmed leader. Okay, that's the Marine Corps. GOP battle brews over defense bill as McCarthy under pressure to appease the right on social issues. McCarthy is the Republican Speaker of the House. Michael Cohen has a warning for Trump aide charged in, okay, this is on a new subject, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure how these employees, I'm not sure how that works. On the housing and I think, yeah, I'm not sure how it works. Since I was a little child, I wanted to go, that was my thing, I was going to go into the military. I got my parents to pay for me to go 4 years to De La Salle Military Academy. That sounds like, you have money. Well, of course they did charge a little extra, but it was extra money. Of course, my parents could have sent me to public school, and they wouldn't have had to pay, tuition not my poor parents, not only did they have to pay tuition for the school year, but for 4 years I flunked because I wasn't interested in anything except the military, and I flunked everything. I'm not sure if they flunked me for typing. Anyway, I was in the dumb class. There was 4 homeroom classes each year, and 2 of them were the smart kids, and I wasn't in any of those homerooms, and then the other 2 classes were for the dumb kids, and I was in that class, of course. But when I was going to, but I was always interested in politics. So I was in grade school and high school and watching the House Un-American Activity Committee meetings, and I ordered in tons of stuff from the government printing office, field manuals on Arctic survival or, tropical survival, if you were, and all that kind of stuff. And plus a lot of other stuff. And then plus too, I was putting out publications on my own. I was in the civil defense when I was in high school, which was not school related, and I was in the Ground Observer Corps, which was not school related, and all this stuff, kind of stuff. So, but so I don't really, I know a little bit because I kind of followed it a little bit. There's a YouTube site where people ask questions and then other people answer them, and I spent way too much time every day. I've tried to stop a little bit because an interesting question would pop up, and then I'd stay there and read the next one or whatever. So I've learned a lot from that, and a lot about the military. I didn't know, like I was rejected. Well, when I was rejected because I was way underweight. Well, when I had to do the selective service physical, there was 200 of us there. I know there was 200 because we were all naked, and they used a magic marker to mark, 1 to 200. And I was I looked like somebody from a concentration camp. And there was 200 of us there, and the doctor who was in charge of things or whatever there, he weaved himself right at the beginning through. He saw me and came over and he said, "Have you been in the hospital? Are you sick?" And so anyway, I got rejected because of, but what I totally forgot was my hearing. It was bad. But there for that physical exam, you just went up to a door and somebody on the other side said 5 or 6 or some number. And when I was in that line, when I realized that there was going to be that hearing test, then I thought, oh shit. And then when I got up to that, I thought, oh no, But then I heard, I heard it. So, but also what happened when I went down, as soon as I got my card, which I got a card that said 1A, Selective Service 1A card, and I tried 2 years earlier to get in, and they kept me out because of the weight. But so when I went down, and the recruiter said, "Oh," he said, "you were on my list. Everybody that's 1A." He said, "We contact you." So, and I said, "Oh, I'm here," and then so I started. I think I didn't. That question thing that I was just talking about. I found out a lot of stuff. Years later. It wouldn't have helped me get in, by the way, but because of my hearing. But I did find out because of, let's see, that would have been, I got out of high school 59. Was Korea going then, or was that Vietnam? I think that'd been Vietnam, wouldn't it? But I found out from this question and answer thing just a few years ago. One, I found out, which I didn't know, that it was a contract with the recruiter. So you had, and they followed the contract unless unless you couldn't, you finished your basic training, and then if you had signed up, well, I think they'd have kept the contract for, like you could go in with your friends, and you'd all be together, except, if one guy is smart and he's going to go to officers, that doesn't mean you're all going, stuff like that. And you could pick your area, and if it was available, like Hawaii or something, hey. So, but I found out too that what they did, there was a shortage because of Vietnam, I think. And the air conditioning just stopped, by the way. I wonder if that's by the way, the microphone is still in front of me. Let me look and see if we're still running. Yep, still using 0.3%. So this ought to be a good, if I can just get rid of that noise in the background. By the way, I have the problem also, in addition to not being able to hear in a certain range, I also hear constantly, which sounds like crickets, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I forget how many, there's an awful lot. Of course, it varies. It varies with people, that problem. And you'll see on, like CNN, the news thing, you go down to the bottom, or you get a thing with advertising stuff, and there'll be something, breakthrough for such and such, and do this, press on your ear or whatever. Nothing works. And if somebody could come up with something, because it's not really having to do with your hearing, it's in your brain. But it varies with people. Some people are very mild. Some people, mine is, well, I guess I wouldn't know. Well, it's a problem. I mean, But anyway, what I wanted to say was, what I found out was, from this question and answer thing, at some point after the military refused me, but of course I always forgot about the hearing thing. So at some point I could have gone being way underweight. Of course, I'm sure they still had a range. I mean, I think I'd have been so underweight. Not blaming my parents or my mother or anything like that. I'm not blaming my parents because, but I lived on TV turkey dinners and Coke. Well, actually, it was Pepsi then. And that was it. And by the way, the TV turkey dinners, there wasn't any microwave at that time, so you did them in the oven. And that, I don't think they were nearly as nutritious as, I think they know now that they've, so, but that was me. My mother and father were both alcoholics. I was never spanked in my life that I know of, so that's good. I had to stand between them a few times, but they didn't actually hit each other, although my mother would, you know, tell my father, I dare you, go ahead and hit me, and he'd wrap a, towel or something around his hand, but he never hit her. And then they would just say horrible things at each other. But my mother, both my parents never missed a day's work. My mother, worked as a nurse. Well, she worked in the beginning as a few things. Eventually, she went to nursing school, an LPN, licensed practical nurse. And she always worked. And but as soon as she'd come home, she'd make her highball, and she'd get her telephone address book. She'd put it there, and she would start making calls to people who were in the phone book, family members. The Andersons were lucky. Because they were A, because she started at the beginning A. But by the time she got, Howard, well, there was a whole bunch of Howard. My father had 5 or 6 brothers and 3 sisters. Now, of course, the sisters had, they married, and so they weren't Howard. Like one was Anderson, married a real nice guy. All of my aunts and uncles were really, really nice. But anyway, she'd start calling them. And she'd call till, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Then she'd go to bed, wake up, and go to work. And when came home, same thing. But I think I started on something and I got sidetracked. Oh, yeah. The military took in people who were underweight or overweight. And then I read on that thing, they explained that, when you went through the basic trainings, whatever, I think normally they get, like for the Army, of course. I think in the U.S. Air Force, I think in fact, I actually read that where somebody said, they were talking about meals and that type of stuff, and in basic training, what do you get? And I think for like the Army and the Marine Corps, I think you got like 30 minutes to eat. No more than that, I know. But if you came in when they decided they would take in people who were over and underweight because of the Vietnam War, I think the ones who were overweight, instead of getting 30 minutes, and I'm not sure if this is exactly correct, you got 25 minutes. And then there were some other things like no dessert. You're not getting a dessert, And then if you were, underweight, then you got maybe, well, I can't picture them giving you more than 30 minutes, but maybe they gave you 35 minutes and you could have a dessert or something. And then, of course, there was the exercise or whatever. Things like that, which I didn't know. And I didn't know that contract thing really, because when I thought, when I had my selective service physical, they messed up. And I got a 1A card. I forgot that. The reason for that was, well, when I went, okay, I said, he said, oh, well, okay, well, we've got available teletype repair. And of course I was thinking that I wanted, I wanted to be in the 101st Airborne Division or something like that, which I don't think I would have, really. I know they start you out and they, you jump from a little tower and that kind of stuff, but I don't think I would have been. But I thought, but I didn't know that. By the time they did a selective service physical on me, and what happened was they didn't look at my height and weight, because I guess they never, they didn't look, because when I told the recruiter, I said, well, I'm a little bit pissed, and he said, why? And I said, well, right after high school. I went to a military high school, and I came right down after it, and you wouldn't take me because I was underweight. He says, yeah, you do look underweight. And then he called the number, over there, and then they said, oh, okay, yeah, we made a mistake. We didn't notice the height and the weight. Yeah, we'll send him a 1Y. Or they didn't say that. They probably just said, we'll send him a new card. So I got a new card, and 1Y, same as Donald Trump. And two, I read about that fairly recently, and we were sort of like brothers, except I didn't have somebody trying to keep me out of the military, and I wasn't trying to stay out of the military, and whatever. But anyway, how long has this been? 30 minutes, so that's okay. I wanted to test it a little bit. And my son hasn't grown up. He's grown up. I can't believe how old my kids are. I'm 82, so you can just imagine. But I did not get married till I was 26. Darlene was 18. So anyway, if you've got some feedback on the audio, and I think you can all live with me just being in a small, and I'll do a little bit better, of course. Right now I just haven't been doing much with the screen or anything. Oh, yeah, I'll make that for another video. There's some big changes coming with the Chrome browser, and also with a couple of the other browsers. There's a new update to the Chrome operating system that's going out to, well, I don't know if it's going out because I have a Chrome laptop, which I never use. I'm going to put it here, by the way, in a little bit, and set it up. So there are some things coming. Anyway, I'm going to end this for now. I hope. Now the air conditioner is not going, and I can hear something, but the range of my hearing is unbelievable. You wouldn't, it's bad, really bad. But I worked my entire life and usually worked 2 jobs. Full-time job, part-time job. Oh, let me mention something again, which I just not long ago noticed on. I've been trying to stay away from that question and answer thing because I spend too much time because the questions are good. Well, of course, I have a bunch of bad questions. Well, that's because, anyway, I liked that, whatever it's called. And then a few years back, they started a thing, oh, you can make money by you ask a question. And then if people, go and they're checking that out, or if you answer the question, if somebody else answers a question, and then you can make money, and they talk, oh, you can make a bunch of money. And then I knew right away, okay, that's a bad idea, because the thing was really nice. So then you had people asking, is the earth flat? Or, they just asking anything they could, hoping to make some money. And I don't think very many people made money off of that, and I didn't try. And I knew it was a bad idea. They have now stopped that. So I think it really hurt them because it just, made sense. You're going to have people, hey, I can make money by asking a question, So what's a question that somebody would want to hear the question? And I'm sure they had to reject a bunch of questions, Anyway, thank you very much for watching. And anyway, I'm not sure you can tell what's going on to the audio by listening. I think it's kind of my problem here to solve. Thank you very much for watching.